Last week, I saw Christopher Rufo, who I greatly admire, write and talk about something we don't need to even talk about. But in that, he said, the right faces an inflection point. There are serious people who are trying to advance a serious political movement with a vision for governing. There are also unserious people who are willing to sell kayfabe and conspiracy, leading us nowhere. I care about politics because I believe we have substantive work to do for the country. This requires putting together a coalition that is capable of taking responsibility. The choice is ours. I responded to that, and people, and I'm hoping Christopher didn't, but people thought that I was coming after Christopher, and I wasn't. I was really frustrated with, he's right, but what does a serious option look like? I said, I have great respect for Chris Rufo. He has done more to expose the rot than many of us combined. But, Chris, the only option I see that is viable is a return to the Constitution and Bill of Rights. All of our problems stem from the violation of these documents. Congress doesn't care, nor does it even attempt to do its job. Every administration is worse than the last. At this point, it is all-powerful. Supreme Court has trouble defining a woman. May God help us with them defining any of the amendments. Our Justice Department, Intel, and every agency has been co-opted by radicals. Those that believe in a constitutional republic are not the radicals. There is another option. Return to e pluribus unum, the Bill of Rights and Constitution. So I wanted to get Christopher on because I heard from so many people that we were warring. And Christopher, I'm sorry if I led anybody of your friend circle to think that I would stand against you, because I have such admiration for you.
Of course not. No, I didn't take any offense to it. And in fact, I found that we were actually in agreement. So I'm glad we have a chance to talk in greater depth. I mean, I think you diagnosed the problem there perfectly. But the question that I'm raising is, how do we get there? What kind of coalition do we need? What kind of intellectual leadership will we need? And then what political leadership we'll need? And what I've noticed on the right, especially after the horrific 10/7 attacks against Jews in Israel, is that there has been a fragmentation, and there are some people who are chasing conspiracy theories. There's a rise, kind of resurgence on the outer fringes of some anti-Semitism on the right. And then there are people who are elevating their profiles in media on conspiracy theories that lead nowhere, on kind of tabloid-style gossip that doesn't offer any concrete possibility. And so I think we have a media problem, and we have, in addition, a leadership problem. And
when you say a media problem, you mean the right media?
Yes, absolutely. I think that if you look at kind of serious conservative media figures, and of course I would include you in this, you're always doing the reporting, the conversations, trying to guide people towards something that they can do, some legislation that politicians can pass, some policy that we can adopt, some kind of counterculture that we can build. But I think given the dynamics of online media, advertising, audience building, and then just the dynamics of kind of general tech and media trends, some people are being, kind of generously rewarded with clicks and attention who don't actually offer anything substantive. And I think it gets some of our audience, some of our listeners, in this outrage cycle where they're outraged for outrage's sake, but they're not being directed towards guiding that outrage towards something constructive. And I've seen it. It can really be damaging to people, and it's certainly damaging to a political movement. And I don't think it's a failure of the audience. I think it's actually a failure of us in the media, in positions of authority, in positions of leadership. You always have to guide people towards something that can make their lives better. And if we're not doing that, we're taking advantage, and we have to stop.
So I completely agree with you. So because we agree on the solution, and this is my point back to you was, I am very afraid of, serious options, because there is another split in the right that is willing to look at extra constitutional solutions. And that's really dangerous. And starting to say, well, this Constitution, maybe it's old and dusty, like the left has been saying. No. all of our problems are solved by two things. One, the people living a better life, and I don't mean like you're making more money. I mean you're a more decent, humble, and just better person. Plus, the rule of law being restored as written. So where do you see anybody coming up and really promoting that, Chris?
Well, I think that's exactly what we need to do, and I've been very vocal. There's a lot of frustration on the right. There's a lot of anxiety, but all of our problems can be solved through kind of normal, peaceful, democratic means.
Yes.
We still have a great system, but our system is atrophying because we aren't using that system. And so I would point to the leadership of someone whom I admire very much, Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida.
Yes.
He had the same legislature that Jeb Bush did. He had the same state constitution. And yet he's using power effectively within the law to make Florida a better state for people to live, work, and raise families. And so I think we have to really discipline our own coalition. We have to stop engaging in these kind of fantasies of extrajudicial or extra-parliamentary politics, and we have to say, if we are going to be the conservative political party, the conservative political movement, we have to respect the documents and just be smarter, be more persistent, be more diligent in actually practicing politics. And so there are models out there that are successful, and I think we have another model of the kind of more, say, radical, kind of extra-constitutional model that is a dismal failure. It's always been a dismal failure. When the left did it in the late 1960s and early 1970s with those radical movements, the American people rejected them. If the right does it at any time, now or in the future, the people, the citizens will reject them. It's a dead end, and we need media figures that are kind of telling people to straighten out, to have self-discipline, to remind people of the constitutional principles that we're fighting for, and then to lay out a plausible plan, because people get desperate when they think they have no other options. And so it's our responsibility to show them the concrete options, not just spin out, into conspiracy land.
So, Chris, I don't listen to anybody else. I don't watch anybody else. I read, but I've tried to cut my reading back to about 4 hours a day because it's just poison. It's just all poison. But it's part of my job. I've got to read and be informed. So I don't hear things. I am very concerned about just somebody doing something stupid. I'm also very concerned about this very, very, very small group of people that are Christian nationalists, but it's very small. I am not concerned about the average listener, if you will.
Correct.
You seem to be. I don't know if your concern is greater than mine, and I'm pretty concerned about things. I want to judge why. What is it that you're feeling or is bringing this out in such a passionate way? I want to make sure I'm not missing it.
Yeah, well, I think we are approaching a critical period in our country's history. And, I think the genesis of my comments was this, blow up between Candace Owens and the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's publication. And, I think that I try to be disciplined in my criticisms of people within our coalition, within our movement. But, Candace had been arguing that there are secret gangs of Jews murdering people in Hollywood. She had rationalized Kanye West's,
Right.
kind of deranged anti-Semitic outbursts. She had been, pushing stories about how the president of France's wife is actually a man. And these are stories that drive clicks, they drive controversy, but they actually don't create anything substantive. And unfortunately, there is a kind of rising group of commentators and media figures that have figured out that the way to get cheap attention is to put forward stories like these. And I just think that we have to be, of course, kind of tolerant of a range of opinion, but there also is an outer bound or a limit that any political movement needs to maintain its own coherence and its own discipline. And so,
and you're not talking about censorship. You're just talking about self-control.
That's right. It's first self-discipline, and then it's also giving people a better option. So, of course, I mean, I don't think any of these opinions should be censored. They shouldn't be, stricken from the record. The government should not have any sway whatsoever. But I think that it's up to us to have that discerning judgment, and then to also show people why this is such a limitation, why it actually is not helpful, and to get people out of this outrage cycle that depletes them and into a cycle of participation in politics in the real sense. Politics is not, tweeting conspiracy theories. Politics is actually winning elections, changing the law, and managing institutions. And so we need a movement that is capable of doing that. And if we're not a movement that is capable of doing that, we don't deserve power, we don't deserve to win, and we don't deserve to have our ideas shaping the law.
We're talking to Christopher Rufo. I am gravely concerned that any time between now and really probably January 20th of next year is the most dangerous place our republic may have ever been, and that's including in the Civil War. We are at the edge of losing everything. Somebody does something stupid, we go to war, the economy collapses, whatever it is. There is a real shot that we lose our freedom. It's happening look what's happening in Brazil. This is happening all over the West right now. And I know I have self-edited more than I've ever edited because I want to be very careful with my words, because I am so concerned about the cries of dis and mis and malinformation that will be wrongly pointed in people's direction by the state. But it's important now that we are speaking clearly and as accurately as we possibly can. Do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way, and I'm very concerned about it. And I think this really dovetails nicely with my overall argument. If we don't have the self-discipline, and if we engage in these kind of wild lines of media narratives, it's going to provide, it's fake, but it will provide a kind of rationalization or justification for continued censorship. If the government and the organized left can point to verifiably false conspiracy theories, they can then use it as justification for censorship. Obviously, I don't support that. I think you should.
Correct.
I think everyone has the right to say whatever they want, true, false, good, or bad. But we have to be realistic about it. And this is a major threat of getting deplatformed, of getting debanked, of getting kind of de-anonymized, exposed. And so we unfortunately, look, the New York Times can publish conspiracy theories for 3 years about Russiagate. They'll be awarded the Pulitzer Prize, and they'll pay no price when it turns out to be all a pack of lies. We don't have that luxury. I wish we did, but we have to take the reality for what it is. We have to be more disciplined. We have to have higher standards, and we have to fight much smarter than our opponents. That said, the good news is that when we fight smart, like DeSantis has done in Florida, there is a wide open vista of possibility for us, and we can truly create, what I think of as a counter hegemony that will create a bulwark or a defense against all of the awful things that the organized left is doing.
Christopher Rufo, thank you so much.